Okay, I have a question for musicians out there. I have this practice piece that is has a tempo of 80. It's in time signature 2/4, so there's only 2 beats per measure, but there's a lot of 16th notes in it, several eighth notes, and only a half note at the end of measure 4 and 8. It's only 8 measures long, so it's a little practice piece here. It's called a cheerful tune. So it's an 80 tempo, which is not typically that fast, but when you have a lot of quarter notes, 16th notes in there, it kind of makes it a little peppy. But I have a question at the end. Okay, so let me get the metronome going, and you can hear it chime on the downbeat. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2. I said it's in 2/4 time, right? So two beats per measure. 1, 2, 1, 2, and here we go. Oops. 2. All right, and so it's kind of peppy, even though it was an 80 tempo. So here's the question. It's 2/4 time, an 80 tempo, a lot of 16th notes, several eighth notes, and only a half note. I'm talking about the melody, the harmony underneath, several half notes, but I'm talking about the melody. And here's the question. So that's what we listen to, right? Mostly 16th notes, a lot of eighth notes, and end of measure 4, end of measure 8, we had half notes, tempo of 80. Now, if I had played the same thing, but I doubled the beats per measure, if I made it a 2/4, and instead of 2/4, I made it 4/4, and I removed every other measure line, so I would combine measure 1 and 2 into one measure. Measure 3 and 4 would be the second measure. Measure 5 and 6 would be the third measure, and measure 7 and 8 would have been the fourth measure. I just made it 4 measures long, but I kept the same tempo. All right. Then I would basically have the same piece. It would sound identical. You wouldn't know the difference playing them. Time-wise and everything would sound the same. All right. So, like I said, I would be keeping the same tempo, remove every other measure line, and change it from 2/4 to 4/4. Or if I kept the beats per measure at 2/4 and I doubled the beats per note, so every 16th note became an eighth note, and every eighth note became a quarter note, and the 2 half notes became whole notes, and I doubled the tempo to 160, that also would have sounded identical to what I just played. So my question for the musicians out there is, when composers compose music and they're coming up with whether or not they're going to do what their tempo is going to be, what their time signature is going to be, and what they're going to play 16th notes over quarter notes or eighth notes or what have you, that there's multiple ways to do the exact same thing. So when this was composed, they decided to have mostly 16th notes, tempo 80, and 2/4 time. However, if they had decided to do 2/4 time, to double the beats per note, change all the 16th notes to eighth notes, all the eighth notes to quarter notes, and the half notes to whole notes, and double the tempo, it would have sounded the same. So, and likewise, if they doubled the beats per measure from 2/4 to 4/4, they kept the tempo the same, but they removed every other measure line and just cut the number of measures in half, it all would have sounded the same. So my question is, when composers are composing their pieces, what drives them to go one way or the other when there's 3 different ways of writing this that it would sound identical? And that's my question. If anybody has any inputs, I would love to learn more about the decision-making process in composing music. Thanks for listening.